Hello, I'm International Master Andrei Ostrovsky, and this is Learn from Chess Blitz live show that gives you an opportunity to learn something new about chess while playing against me. So if you are new to this show, just go to leechess.org and challenge me for a 5-minute Blitz game. You can find me there by the nickname Ostrovsky, and the spelling is the same like in the short link leading to my YouTube channel that you can find below. So it is bit.ly/Monstrovsky, and if you want to improve your chess, I think it should be the first step you should make, just to become my subscriber, because I share a lot of instructive stuff on my channel. Not only these live streams, but they're also quite instructive, but also some instructive chess videos on various topics. Alright, so I can see there are a lot of challenges already, so we will start with playing just in a few moments. Today is Monday, so Learn from Chess Blitz usually has two editions, the Monday edition and the Sunday edition, and the difference between them is that on Sunday I usually play just normal chess. On Monday I try to come up with different experiments. So today I will be trying to play different gambits. Alright, so just let me know if everything is fine with the stream, with the picture, with the sound. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Just as usual, let me know in live chat. Here is already the first commenter, Artur Novrovsky. Hello Artur, I'm happy you're here. Alright, so let's go and play some games. So the first will be David Sonneveld. Accept the challenge, 5 minutes, and I'm playing with white pieces. Alright, so let's start with the e4 and see what we can do in the sense of gambits. So after Sicilian there are so many different possibilities for white to come up with a gambit play. Let's try b4 move. So it is an old possibility. Well, David Bronstein was one of the most famous guys who actually tried this, if I'm not mistaken, not only in games against computers, but also against human beings in normal tournaments. I mean, not this rapid and blitz stuff. e5. Okay, so that is a non-Sicilian continuation, to be honest, which can be considered as an achievement for white, because if black plays c5 on the first move, probably he doesn't want to play something like e5. Alright, we will see. So in any case, let's start with taking the pawn. And when the bishop takes on b4, I can actually challenge g7 pawn with a queen g4 move. I can try something connected with the attack against e5, like to play queen h5 even, but I don't think it makes a great sense. And I can also use the bishop on b4 as a target, so I can play c3, winning the tempo for future d4 move. So I will start with the c3 move here, just attacking the bishop, intending to play d4 at some point. I also want to know where the bishop goes, because if the bishop goes away to, let's say, a5, there is no longer a possibility for black to come back to f8, so potentially I can do something with this g7 pawn. So maybe I'll bring the queen to g4, and black will be forced to protect it the ugly way. But bishop goes to e7, which is also an achievement for me, because bishop is no longer that active. So what can I do now? I can play d4, just fighting for center. I can probably start with the knight f3 and then d4. Which one is better? I'm not sure. Let's try just d4. Let's see if it gives me anything. So every time when you play a gambit opening, of course, you have to come up with sort of very ambitious play. You have to try to grab the initiative. Otherwise, it's not clear why do you actually sacrifice the material, right? So everything should be compensated, especially the material loss. So now, as we may notice, I'm just a pawn down. I have, well, at first glance, very well looking pawn center, but black definitely has resources to fight against this center, so I don't think white has a lot in this position. But at least it looks very active, right? And that is what I need here. Some active play, active prospects. We'll see. So d5, black attacks my e4 pawn. I definitely don't want to take on d5 here. So I'd rather play e5, grabbing the space and limiting the knight g8. Alright, f6 undermines the e5 pawn but weakens diagonal h5, e8. And this may be my target very, very soon. So how to use this? Probably, first of all, I have to complete my development quickly. I have different possibilities. I can play bishop d3, I can play bishop to b5. I think bishop to d3 will be natural, because in this case I control g6 square and kind of create a threat of queen h5 check. So let's just put the bishop on this position. Yeah, queen h5 becomes a nasty threat now. So black has definitely think of it, otherwise it may become very ugly. Alright, knight c6 counterattacks d4 pawn, but can I still play queen h5? That is an interesting question, because after queen h5 check, if g6, I can just take on g6 with the bishop. Alright, let's put the queen on h5. I think it's good to have the queen active there. If king goes away somewhere, it is another achievement for me, so in addition to some extra space, the king will be ugly. And then I will just complete my development with the help of knight e2 or maybe knight f3 move. I mean, development of the king side will come up with castling quickly, and then I'll still need to do something with this guy's knight b1 and bishop c1. But we'll see. Alright. So Artur says, so your games in Bundesliga, Andre. Yeah, this weekend I was playing in Bundesliga, and actually, in the sense of result, this weekend was just awful. But on the other hand, I actually got some experience losing 2 games to good grandmasters. So the first opponent was Pavel Trigubov, and on Sunday I was facing Luke McShane. So both games were very interesting till the time trouble, where I spoiled good positions, in my opinion, in both of these battles. But still, well, it provides me with food for thought. So how to avoid time troubles, what was the main reason of those time troubles, and so forth. Okay, king goes to d7, which looks very, very good for me. So now the king is definitely very ugly. Do I have a chance to attack it immediately? Probably I have to consider something like e6 here, but, well, I don't think it is the best option. So I need to come up with the development, so to bring other resources to the game prior to get into some concrete actions, I think. So even if I want to play e6 or something like that, probably I need my bishop on f4 to control that diagonal. Will be just nice. So now I don't really have a chance to bring the bishop to f4, because, well, after this check I probably have to play this bishop d2, but still, well, with the help of these moves, black achieved nothing new in the position, but I kind of completed my development. Almost all my pieces are already in the game, so I'm pretty much optimistic about my chances in this game. All right, let's just castle. Let's just castle to start with. Now the king is on d7, so I'm going to attack this guy somehow, probably with the queen, with the rooks. Maybe I will bring my knight d2 somewhere to c5, we will see. It's not that clear at the moment, but okay, f takes c5. I think I can take with the knight, because it's check and it forces black to take, after which my queen occupies extremely dangerous position for black's king. And now I attack g7. d5 is also under pressure, although not attacked right away. my bishop is ready to join the attack from f5 or b5 square, so this looks already very, very promising for white. Another possible idea is just to bring the knight to c5, as I said before. So knight e2 goes to b3 and then to c5. I can also put one of my rooks to e1, another one to c1, and, well, the king will be feeling very, very bad. Alright, rook g8, I think it's natural to start with rook e1, creating the threat of queen e6 at some point, maybe just next move. For instance, right now, why not to play this? Queen e6 check. Very good, because if king c7 and rook c1... No, king c7, I just take the knight. And if king e8, the knight is pinned by the rook, so I can simply take here on g8. Now I just come back to e6 maybe, or maybe not. I don't know, maybe bishop b5 should be included. Let's take this one. Now queen f7 check. And there should be a checkmate very soon, I think. So rook e7 controlling the 7th rank and breaking the connection between the queen and f6 square. So now I can play queen f6, and after bishop a6 I can also play queen e6 with a checkmate in both cases. All right. So what was the reason of my successful attack here? I think ever since started with this f6 move, I don't like the idea of playing f6 in this position because it weakens a lot. So what to do instead, we can notice that because of this e5 pawn, black has some problems with completing the development, but it was still possible to do something like bishop b4 check in this position, and let's say after bishop d2 just to take it, and after knight takes d2 to continue development this natural way. So knight goes to e7, black castles after that, bishop goes to f5, which is very logical because if I play, for example, bishop d3, I have some ideas of playing against h7, and bishop f5 will be just a very good idea to get rid of this potentially very, very dangerous piece, to exchange this main attacking piece in white's position, I think. And after this exchange, black is completely safe. I guess white has some tricks, white has some objects of attack, like b7 pawn, like d5 pawn, but this is not really something. This is not really something that can make black's position a nightmare. So I do believe black is just fine here, and gradually this extra pawn should be just a winning position for black. So the question, your rook on e7 was handing at the end. Well, really? I just blundered that stupidly? Let's have a look at that. Yeah, rook e7, I was just... I blundered the rook here. What was wrong with me? I don't know. Oh, come on. Yeah, of course, rook e8 should have been played in this position. That was amazing. Amazing blunder. I somehow forgot about the queen e7 possibility. So in any other case, of course, if the rook is not hitting on e7, it will be just a perfect way of actually limiting the activity of the king. But here, of course, queen a7 is possible, and all of a sudden position comes back to something that is not entirely clear. I think that white is still better here, but it's no longer that decisive advantage with the extra rook. Yeah, that was stupid. Alright, so rook e8 should have been played, attacking the queen and creating a threat of this queen f8 or queen e7, so it depends on where the queen goes. With an absolutely winning position, there is nothing to discuss. So coming back to the opening stage, I think this strategy was just okay for black, but bishop b4 followed by knight e7 and completing the development the natural way should have been played instead of this f6. So after f6, well, the things become no longer that simple. So after bishop d3, there is this threat of queen h5 move. So black has to prevent it somehow, and for example, g6 will lead to just further weakening of the position. So after, let's say, g6, I definitely have some counter play based on at least h4, h5, challenging this pawn and so forth. Okay, so it's no longer that pleasant for black to play this. That's why f6 is not recommended. All right, let's go further. Let's go further and play Casablanca Century. Again with white pieces, so let's see if I will have a chance to come up with a gambit play in this game. Alright, this time let's try this d4 move. Another gambit. So usually the point is to win some tempi for development. So white is kind of ahead in development from the very start, but this additional sacrifices usually give a chance to develop the pieces quickly while black makes pawn moves grabbing the material. That's the idea. Okay, so d3 is one of the, by the way, typical methods of playing against Gambit. Well, it doesn't give you a material advantage, but at the same time, usually prevents white from, or not necessarily white, black as well. Sometimes black plays Gambits. So prevents your opponent from achieving the primary goal. So after c3, I wanted to have the knight on c3. Now after d3, it's not that simple, but in general, this move is not that great because I still develop my pieces after this simple reply. On the other hand, well, black comes up with the natural development and isn't afraid of quick opening of the position. Probably that is the main idea behind all this. All right, so let's keep playing. Kravnik student is here. Hello, my friend. Redix, Artur, Elka, Mikiku. All these guys are commenting actively in chat at the moment. I'm happy you're here, guys. And all other viewers that remain silent. So d6, okay. Is it the move with the idea of bishop g4? Most likely yes. But I don't think bishop g4 is very dangerous, so let's just keep developing the pieces. Okay, knight f6. So what could be my plan in this situation? I can come up with the e5, but I don't think it is really simple to prepare. And in each and every case, I guess black will have e7, e5 as an option. So having this knight still on b1, I guess it will be natural to play c4. Well, maybe not the most promising version of Maróczy bind pawn structure, but long term it is still quite annoying. So it's not a gambit, of course, but well, I was trying, right? So I played d4, I played c3. My opponent decided not to take the pawn, so all right. Surit Kumar is also here. Hello. Bishop h5. Okay, let's keep developing the pieces. Knight to c3. Position of the bishop on h5 is not very typical for Sicilians. So maybe I will achieve something exactly because of the bishop on h5. Maybe not. So I understand that black's idea is probably to play knight e5 at some point. But again, I'm not sure it is very dangerous for me. Okay, now, what can I do now? Knight d5 looks interesting. Bishop to e3, just developing the bishop. Bishop to g5 is also an interesting option. Okay, which one to choose? Which one to choose? Maybe just to start with bishop e2. Getting rid of the queen and freeing my queen to maneuver somewhere on the queen side. Maybe queen b3 is an interesting opportunity for me to play at some point. Is it a good idea in general to exchange my light square bishop for this guy on h5? Maybe, yeah. Maybe it should be something I could consider in this position. Okay. Let's play this. So it's a waste of time, of course. I mean, I played bishop d3, now I put my bishop on e2. On the other hand, I prevent all these ideas connected with knight e5 attacking my pawn c4 or something like that. Which is not bad for me. Now, what about this move? It's not very typical for Maróczy bind, but We can notice that in this position, my knight is on f3, not on d4, and this straightforward play against d6 pawn can make sense, after all. Alright, so let's protect c4, just in case my opponent wants to play bishop f3 followed by knight e5, attacking c4. So now c4 isn't hanging. And the next stage will be just to exert pressure on d6. By the way, knight b5, no, knight b5 was not that great because of knight takes e4. So let's put the queen on d2 now. Preparing rook to d1. And e5 is what I wanted to provoke. Now I have this d5 square for my knight, potentially. But if I play bishop g5, there is bishop f3 followed by knight d4. So probably I'll put my bishop here on e3, just controlling d4 square additionally. First, I'm going to do something with the bishop h5. So I think it will be nice for me to exchange light squared bishops now. Just because black has a lot of light squared weaknesses, and my light square bishop is not very good, being limited with own pawns. So something like knight h4 at some point should be considered. Maybe very soon. Knight g5 is also the move that actually leads to the same pattern. But after knight h4, if bishop goes to g6, I can grab it and I will have pair of bishops, which is also an interesting achievement for white here in this position. We'll see. So bishop g6. All right, e4 is hanging now. So most likely I have to protect it this way. Not very well. Not very good looking. Not very promising at first glance, but we'll see. Maybe I will just play knight h4 next move. Or very soon we'll just take this bishop and then my bishop will go back. And I will search for an opportunity to relocate it to improve its position. Alright, let's put the knight on f5 now. This looks like an interesting move. Very natural one, by the way. So now my bishop is no longer that bad. Pay attention. Yeah, it's still limited, but I guess it's just fine. And this looks like a great opportunity for me, because it feels like a blunder. Because now if rook d5, I take on c8, and if rook takes c1, rook d5, there is rook c8 check. Extremely promising. And if he doesn't take on d5, oh, he does take on d5. So if I play rook to c8, there is rook d8, most likely. Okay. Okay, but this is still bad. I mean, it should be still bad. On the other hand, I don't achieve anything concrete, so instead I will just play bishop e4 and grab the pawn on a7, which looks just amazing for white as well. So just an extra pawn, pair of bishops, very good position. All the pieces are very active, and the only thing that can stop me from winning this is, of course, the time, because I have only 30 seconds on the clock, which is bad. Alright, let's attack this. And go forward. I could have captured on c6, of course, but I think it's better to keep this pair of bishops for a while, because I have some ideas based on the power of these guys. For example, look at this. This is just great, isn't it? Alright, I think I can try even this. That was probably not necessary. Alright, so now I have some problems with converting it. Maybe there is no even the way to convert it. Who knows? Yeah, it was definitely much better not to sacrifice anything here, so. But this is a great blunder. Okay, now it's winning. Yeah. All right. So let's see what happened in this game. Actually, after c3, the main move is just to take on c3, but many players prefer not to give white this initiative. Who knows? Maybe we will see this gambit later during this show. So after d3, bishop takes d3. Black also has a very decent position, in my opinion. So after c4, bishop here. Maybe it was interesting just to capture on f3 and after queen f3 to play this, then to grab this bishop as well and to play this sort of position. But I'm not sure. So here again, if black plays something like e6, I have a very simple plan of just exerting pressure on d6. But another option is just to play g6, so to bring the bishop to g7 to castle, and then to try to play against this c4 pawn. So white no longer has a lot of resources here, and usually the main problem of black's position in Marozibine is that there is a lack of space. Here, after exchange of two minor pieces, I think there is no longer a problem with the space. So black should find suitable squares for all the pieces. For example, this knight from f6 can go to d7, then to c5. An interesting maneuver. So this bishop from g7 will exert real pressure on b2 and so on. So I guess that was a way of playing it. But of course bishop h5 is still good. So knight to c3. My idea here was that knight e5 doesn't work because of bishop e2. And let's say if bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, knight takes c4, there is queen a4 check. So that was my idea behind not protecting c4 right after this bishop to h5. So my opponent played rook to c8. Here I played bishop e2 because it already felt like a threat. So this bishop f3 followed by knight to e5, one possibility, then taking on c4 maybe, or maybe taking on d3 with further attack against c4. But even better for black could have been to play knight e5 immediately, I think. Just creating a sort of damage in my pawn structure here on f3 and also attack on c4, bishop d3. So a lot of objects of attack for black here. That's why I played just bishop e2, because anyway on d3 there is nothing to do at the moment to protect myself from all this kind of threats. Still, bishop takes f3, bishop f3, and knight e5 deserved attention, attacking c4, in which case, however, I could have played bishop e2, I guess trying to exploit the same idea with queen a4 check. But here it's no longer that clear. So let's see, knight takes c4, queen a4, queen e7 is possible. And if I take on c4, there is queen takes a4. Knight takes a4, rook takes c4, and black is absolutely fine. But instead of doing it, I guess I could consider something like queen a7 or, yeah, something like this. So I could capture on a7, capture on d7. I don't think it promises a lot. So queen a7 should be the main move for white here. And well, what happened here, we had an exchange, so material is still equal, and I have pair of bishops. So this could be potentially slightly annoying for black. So okay, black played normally just e6, okay, bishop to f4, bishop e7, b3. By the way, instead of bishop... Alright, bishop e7 is okay, b3, castles, queen to d2, and e5. I'm not that sure that black should have played this so early. I would have probably considered something like a6 here. And if rook to d1, then something like bishop takes f3, bishop f3, and knight to e5. Protecting the pawn this way. And then trying to do something typical for hedgehog, so queen to c7, intended to play b5 maybe. Rook to d8, protecting d6 if it is needed, and this knight from e5 can go to, let's say, g6. if it is attacked, of course. But to attack this knight, I have to do a lot, like bishop e2, queen c7, let's say bishop to h2, and after rook d8, f4, okay, knight can go to g6. So it's not clear if I achieved anything concrete here in this position. So it's still a long way to achieving anything tangible, I guess. And there is a threat of b5 with some typical Sicilian counterplay. Also, some things like d5 should be considered at some point, followed by bishop at b4 and so on. So e5 just gives me a chance to get this d5 if nothing else works. And this is a long-term problem for black. So rook c1, I just keep developing my pieces. I still have a lot of space, very nice position. Now I want to play knight to h4. And after this, and knight to f5, well, I have very promising setup in my opinion. So now, in addition to this fighting for d5 square, I can base my play on this e4 square, which starts looking very good to occupy. For example, after knight e4, knight takes e4, and bishop takes e4. This resultant bishop on e4 will be very good, controlling both flanks simultaneously. I also have some interesting ideas based on g4, h4, like g5, and so on, based on the pawn structure here. So light squares in general are quite weak. And d5, in my opinion, is just a blunder. So after knight d5, if queen takes queen here, I have intermediate capture on either e7 or f6 to know which is better. Most likely both are absolutely playable. So after knight f6, bishop f6, and rook d2, I have no problems with occupying e4. After, let's say, knight takes e7 instead, and for example, king f8, an interesting trick, rook takes d2 and king takes e7. Alright, I have two bishops against two knights, but I think here black definitely has better counter chances than in this situation after knight takes f6, bishop f6, and rook d2, because this bishop is potentially useless. Of course, black can try to exchange it, so bishop g5 is playable. But then, okay, just rook to d1, bishop to e4, that is the plan. So for example, bishop g5, rook to d1. If bishop takes e3, okay, I just take control in this d4 square, making this knight really bad. And then my bishop goes to e4, I simply have extra pawn and no compensation. That's why black decided to take on d5. Now I take on a5 and take on d5. And there is the problem with the back rank. That was my initial idea. So I mean, I wanted to play rook to c8 here, and if king h7, then I play f6 check. You can notice this bishop here. And after rook d3, which looks like the only normal move, I take on e7 and my pawn promotes. But the problem with that, after rook c1, rook d5, and rook to c8, there is a simple bishop d8 or rook d8 move, and I didn't see anything concrete after that. Was also playable. I mean, if bishop d8, I can still take on a7 at some point. I mean, after including this bishop e4, rook d1, king h2. But black, as you can see, has some potential to protect himself here. But in this particular case, if black plays b6 protecting this, I can play b4, and feels like this knight is just trapped, right? So yeah, I had some great chances after rook c8 as well. Well, just a simple bishop e4 followed by bishop a7 was good enough, because in this position, white simply has extra material, pair of bishops, all the pieces are much better, so it's just a winning position in my opinion. All right. And there was an interesting thing suggested by Kramnik student in chat. So after knight e7, king f8, to include this intermediate knight g6 move. Yeah, it was interesting, but I didn't want to do this because of f takes g6, rook d2, and e4 move, attacking the bishop d3. And when the bishop goes away, and bishop probably should go away somewhere, let's say to e2 after this exchange, and g takes f5, black regains the pawn. That's why knight g6 is not very cool. All right. So let's go further. Here is Surit. Let's play Surit. I guess it is the guy from the live chat as well. So let's play. And that's strange that I play with white pieces exclusively today. That is something strange. But of course, it gives me an opportunity to come up with gambits, because when you play with black pieces, it's not that simple, you know, to sacrifice something, because by default you're just to one temple less. All right, let's see what Sarit plays. f6. What is that? After f6, you no longer have to actually play gambit, right? But okay, let's start with occupying the center first. Maybe I will sacrifice something later. What about this? Just h4, h5 quickly. Trying to create some weaknesses. Light square weaknesses mainly. Look, a lot of light squares around here are just weak. h6 looks perfect. Just to prepare queen h5. But bishop e6 is just here to prevent it. Alright, maybe I should have started with something else, don't know. Still looks absolutely winning. Still looks absolutely winning for white. So let's play d5. And now bishop e2. I want to exchange this light squared bishop. Just want to play this. And take it with pleasure. And this pawn on h6 will be sacrificed, but I don't think it is a big problem for white, because now white has this amazing hole to occupy with the knight, let's say. So to bring the knight there, simply, let's go there. Just like this. So it's not really a gambit. I mean, yeah, I sacrificed the pawn, but the idea was entirely different. I mean, usually the idea behind the sacrifice when you play a gambit is to win some time for development. Here I played h6 just to have the h5 square at my disposal. Okay. So now I think I can put my knight on e6 if I want. And this looks very good, because here the knight prevents the king from castling both sides, and controls additionally f8, g7, d8 squares, which will be quite helpful when I will finish this game with the checkmate in attack. All right. c6, undermining d5, which supports my knight e6, but I think it's not a big problem, because my knight my pawn d5 is supported just sufficiently. So I can focus on development. Just knight c3. Most likely intended a maneuver like knight e2, knight g3, knight f5. Looks very, very natural. Or to do what? Don't know at the moment. This is kind of blunder or not. Can I play just rook h6, queen h5? Maybe queen h5 immediately. Well, rook h6, knight h6, queen h5, just knight to f7. I mean, one of these knights. No, don't want to actually solve my opponent's problems here. Because he definitely has some problems with the development. So I will keep developing my pieces instead. So what's going on here? What's going on? It's not clear how to play with black. Okay, black is not lost right now. I guess there are still some possibilities, like knight can go to g6, king can go to f7, but it's just a short-term thing, I guess. Long-term, it's just very hard. Very, very hard. I need my knight on g7, I guess. So my knight should go to h5 or f5, something like this. But now I can't see the reason why not to take on f5. In fact, there is no refutation of this simple e4 takes f5, because if knight f6, I just take on h6. So first, And black has to do something with the bishop h6 to be able to move the knight g8 somehow. Is Andre playing only gambits? Well, I don't play only gambits, but I try at least to play gambits today. Queen takes e6. Let's take this pawn to control g6 square. Oh, castles. Come on. Let's take the one on a7 then, to simplify my attack there. Bishop g7. Okay, where is my checkmate? There is a chance to play a4, a5, a6. As simple as that. I want to bring my knight to the game, so knight a4, knight b6 looks interesting, but then king goes to c7. So maybe I should start with bishop b6, attacking the rook, kind of preventing king c7 to know. Let's play just something. Okay, c5 gives me a chance to occupy d5 square. This is very, very generous, I guess. Let's keep doing this first. Now bishop b6. And then just a6, right? Yeah, why not? If black doesn't take on a6, I'll just play a7, a8. So b takes a6 is kind of forced. Bishop c3, alright. Let's take it. Still a7. He's a threat. Okay, let's bring the queen to this gorgeous position. Knight e5, knight b6 wasn't necessarily a winning because of king c7, so it wasn't a checkmate. I also wanted just to bring the knight there, but I didn't see a checkmate immediately. That's why I decided just to play this. A slightly different thing. Alright, let's come up with a sacrifice. Knight f6 was better, I guess. Okay. I think it's time to bring another rook to the game. Let's do it. Knight f6. Okay, check. One more check. Oh. The most tested move, probably. Let's take the knight. Let's take the pawn, preparing rook to a1. I guess there is no chance for black to stop me from playing that. That's why I removed it simply. Wasn't queen d3 a mate? At which point? Interesting. King takes b6. Before the no. The no at which moment? Yeah. All right. So, okay, it's very hard to analyze this because it's just very bad. Like, so many weaknesses on the move number 4, actually. So everything is just weakened here. So everything I needed here is just to fix your pawns and dark squares to exchange the light squared weakness, to exchange a light squared bishop to actually leave you without the main defender of all these weaknesses, and they are numerous, like everywhere. So e6 isn't the one. So in general, h5, e8 diagonal is very weak, right? So your king is here. This f5 square is deadly weak. And well, these weaknesses are just constant. No matter what you do here, they will stay in a position because, well, even if you exchange my pawns d5 and e4, you still have problems with those squares because the vast majority of your pawns are in dark squares. So it's already strategically lost. I mean, maybe there is no direct win like in several moves. I still have to do a lot of moves to get to your king, but, well, it will happen 100%, right? So there is no chance for you even to coordinate your pieces. Probably the main mistake was to give me this simple way of getting to e6, but I can't see the way for you to actually prevent it somehow. So I anyway go to e6 after all this, all right? So it doesn't matter if I lose the pawn on e6 or not, if you take it or not. The point is that here is the knight you can't really get rid of. So it's absolutely lost strategically, okay? That's the problem. All right, let's go further. Here is Simba 8, Fide Master. So let's try to play Simba 8. All the games against Simba are quite hard to play. All right, so playing with black pieces, it will be very hard for me to play the Gambit. But I still have to, because it is the topic, right? So experimental Monday means taking the risks. So come on, Simba. e4. All right, what can be played in the sense of the Gambit? So we can try something like d5, c6, right? Kind of Gambit. Oh, why doesn't want to? Why doesn't want to allow me that? So I can take on d5 now. It will be the exchange line in Caro-Kann. Well, let's keep playing Gambit. Knight f6. So just take on c6, please. Knight to f3. Still not taking this c6 pawn. Okay. Well, the window of possibility is still open. I mean, you can still take on c6 if you want, but no. He just doesn't want to. All right, it's time to take on d5, I think. Don't want to take with the queen. I just take with the knight. cd5 was also absolutely playable. I mean, just want to play this pawn structure with the bishop on g7. To take there or not to take? I think we'll just castle first. And now we'll take only after h3, right? Just to have this additional tempo at our disposal. So now we have to attack this guy on d4. d5 is a threat, most likely. On the other hand, I don't want to put my knight... Sorry, I don't want to put my pawn on e6 because probably this square will be good for my knight later. So how to attack d4 without giving my opponent a lot of chances after d4, d5. Just to play queen d7, rook d8, but what to do with this guy? So first I have to solve the problem of this knight, I guess. Alright, so let's put it on d7. I don't think that d5 is just very dangerous right now because of at least knight to e5 move, right? So I can potentially bring my knight to f6 if I want, just to control d5 additionally, and then just to play queen d7, rook d8, and at some point this knight from f6 will go away. Something like that. Or alternatively, I can bring my knight to b6, which is of course an ugly position, but again, I think this tempo matters. And at some point I will have a chance to just reactivate it somehow. Alright, now queen d7, preparing rook d8. I guess it's just logical to have this set up against pawn d4. Knight to e4. Well, knight c5 is coming, so I guess this knight e6 should be just the best move right now. Controlling c5 and exert an additional pressure on d4. It's under attack now. And if bishop g4, then I have f5 move, just winning a piece. Well, this position looks not that bad for black. But it can be also true that I missed something here. Alright, knight c5, I think I have to take. Now, not to put my knight in the very ugly position on c8, I have to take again on d2. And now the knight can go to d7, yeah, that is the way. So now at least white has doubled pawns, so I achieved something definitely. Is it much? That is another question. So how can I potentially exert additional pressure on c5 pawn? I can play f5 now with the idea of f4. I think this move should be made anyway, because I have a pawn majority here on the king side, so maybe I will even bring another pawn, so play something like e5, e4, f4, something like that. Knight e5 was also a playable option, but I don't think that I achieved anything there after bishop e2 move, something like this. So first I will try this. Just f5, e5, but it can be dubious. Decision, well, this is not dangerous, because I just play bishop f6. Now c5 is hanging again, but right now I think it's better just to take with the knight to avoid any sort of pins along the d file. Okay. We'll start with this move. And the bishop is quite bad. I don't think this is the best way to play it with black. I do believe that the best way was just to take, not to take on d6 at all, just to play king f7, king e7 to start with. But again, I think this is also playable. I mean, this pawn on d6 is potentially very bad. So I can attack it easily with king f7, king e6. So c5 was important to separate c4 and d6 pawns. That was the idea. Alright, of course I will keep my pawn on c5 for as long as it's possible. If white wants to take on c5, okay, he's welcome, because it doesn't solve the problem. I can still attack this d6. So d6 will most likely just drop next move, right? Alright, let's just take it. And now say knight to d7, protecting c5. Okay, extra pawn, and this bishop is still quite bad. So, alright, what should be played now? There are many interesting options. I will choose this one. So I sacrifice the pawn here. I mean, I give my pawn back to my opponent. On the other hand, I just keep playing against this bad bishop. So look, after king e5, I have a nice blockading setup here. This bishop is just completely limited with own pawns which is very nice for me. My knight is potentially just a monster here. Alright? So these pawns g4, e4, c4 are decisive in the sense of evaluating this position from a strategic point of view, because they prevent this bishop from being activated. So this bishop is completely bad. Now I just keep playing simply, like improving my position slightly. Now, for example, king to e6, preparing knight to e5 move. I can do a lot of interesting things here. A lot of different plans are very, very promising. Okay, e5 is just a try to come up with a slightly more active setup with white pieces, because, well, with the pawn on e4, it's just impossible to play anything active. But it's still, I think, just winning for black. So let's improve our knight. Let's put it on d4. Yeah, just like that. Now king to e5, right? Or not? What will be the best move here? Let's start with this one. And now the king will go to f4. Very nice. Just a gorgeous position. Absolutely winning. So perfectly coordinated black's pieces. Look, the rook, the knight, the king, the pawn. So everything works together just a bit. White's not very coordinated pieces. And there was everything about the bishop. There was everything about this bad bishop after all. So I think White's serious problem started when he played knight to e4, because it feels like White underestimated this simple knight e6 reply, controlling c5 square and attacking d4. I'm not sure, maybe White still has a chance to, well, to balance this position easily without making any concession, but I'm not sure, because, well, knight c5 looks like a move here. Just to avoid losing the pawn. I also considered something like queen a5 here, just attacking a7, and the point I can't play a6 because my knight is hanging. But I'm sure that here I can simply grab the pawn on d4. Now I have a threat of knight f3 check followed by queen takes d1. If bishop takes d4, I just take with the bishop. And it feels like just extra pawn, with some compensation for white, but it felt like not a sufficient compensation. Okay, so knight to c5. What happened after knight c5? I just played knight c5, dc5, queen d2. That was planned. Maybe here it deserved attention to start with the rook to simplify position slightly, because after this knight d7 and bishop e3, I mean the same like in our game. We can notice that there is a threat of rook d1 with the tempo, just grabbing this file, and so on. So if I start with this f5, okay, you have extra tempo to exert some pressure on my knight. And if rook goes to d8, well, it's no longer that clear because my knight is simply pinned here. So I don't really like this position for black. So rook d2 deserves serious attention. In this case, after bishop d2, probably black has to do something else. Maybe to start with this knight e5 followed by rook d8, just like this. But again, as I said during the game, I wasn't really happy about having the knight on e5 in this situation, because it is so easy just to get rid of this knight with the help of f4 if needed, and I don't see really a useful work for this knight here. So yeah, it exerts some pressure on some squares, but not more than that. So that was the reason. There was also a suggestion from Kramnik student, instead of playing knight to c5, to play d5, cd5, bishop takes b6. Okay, I can't take on e4 most likely because of queen d7, so here I have to take here on b6, cd5. Well, but in this position I think black comfortably equalizes, so I don't think white has anything. I mean, I can play the knight on d4, by the way, very annoying thing. And, yeah. Just knight e4, and what to do. So I want to take on f3. If the bishop goes away, I just take on d5. This is annoying, I think. So yeah, maybe there is some like queen e3. Okay. But this pawn on d5 is potentially a problem for white. and I can't see problems for black here. So yeah, this doubled pawns, but okay, I can use one of them just to blockade this a2. a2 is a potential weakness. No, I don't think this is very pleasant position for white. So yeah, I think knight c5 was correct, because again, going back to this line, takes here, queen takes a7. Well, it only works after rook a8, queen b6. But if I don't play rook a8 and play something normal, like, for example, queen c7 move, just a simple move to show you that this queen a7 is not really cool. Then I have a perfect bishop on d4 here, which can be easily supported by c5, e5, then f5, e4, and so forth. It will be just amazing piece very soon. And now there is a threat of rook a8, so you have to spend the time on something like queen a5 running away. And now I can consider rook a8 move, but I don't even need it, I think. I can play just c5, and I love this position. So my bishop on d4 is just amazing, supported by this pawn c5. I have this f5 in mind, followed by e5, e4, and so on. Yeah, probably there is a way for white to equalize even this position, but I mean, white starts struggling here. That is not very cool. In general, well, I don't think it was a good idea to play knight e4 right now. So it was necessary to control this d5. Maybe it was even better not to play rook d1, just to start with a4 move. So when you see such a knight on b6, it is usually a good idea. Okay, my son started crying. You probably even hear this. So a4 with the idea of a5, and in this particular case, it's not very clear if I can stop it with, let's say, a5 move, because this makes my knight very vulnerable, and there is usually something like d5 possible, attacking this knight with a 9 position for black. So most likely I have to do something like, rook d8, then a5, knight goes to c8, and, well, this is already a different thing, I guess. So rook goes to d1, if knight to e6 here, then most likely just d5. Yeah, so this position looks good for white. That was probably the best thing. What happened in our game? So after knight c5 takes here and takes with the bishop. Well, after knight d7 I attack c5. By the way, b4 was playable in my opinion. Yeah, this weak on c4, but I can't really use this. I mean, like immediately. So I can play knight e5, but then bishop e2. And if rook goes to d4, then something like bishop c3 is enough to neutralize black's attack. So bishop e3 just gave me one tempo. I played this f5 with pleasure. Now if you play something like b3, you should be ready that I play something like bishop c3 attacking that pawn. But again, I guess something like b4 should be played here. Just protecting c5 pawn, intending this quick counterplay based on b5. I'm not sure who's faster, white with this b4, b5, or my play with e5, e4. But, well, at least white should have done something quickly. So g3 was too passive, just e5, creating a threat of not only f4, well, mainly I wanted just to play e4 and then knight to e5 with a very pleasant setup. And bishop g5, I think it's just a decisive mistake. So after this exchange, I have just a much better knight, because the pawn structure is bad. Pawn structure is actually one of the main reasons why this bishop is passive. Not only white's pawns, I mean black's pawns as well, because I just play e4 and all my pawns are on light squares, just making this bishop very passive. So rook d6, I just play e4, and now this c5. Separating pawns, and, well, this d6 becomes a serious weakness. And the rest is just a conversion, right? So I prevented everything, just took the pawn, now I'm just a pawn up. After knight e7, well, I have a simple plan of just playing f4. I guess if white wanted to play this position for a draw, just trying to make a draw, g takes f5 should be considered, because in this case you kind of decrease the material on the board, and so this gives you more chances. So you have to exchange pawns, right? In general, it is a good advice. And now, I don't know, maybe even something like f4. Because in this case, well, yeah, this pawn is ugly and potential weakness, but you have some potential of a stronghold, I think. So you can go here, then to e3. I don't know. This looks like the position with more chances to make a draw. After f3 and this f4, I think it's lost. That's it. So all the dark squares are mine. I have very active pieces, and this bishop is just nothing. So the knight will get to e5 100% sooner or later. Then there will be also maneuver towards d4. So my rook is potentially much more active, but the point here is, of course, this one. So bishop on e2 is absolutely bad, absolutely weak, and this knight just dominates. That's the idea. So you saw how easy it is for black to find squares for his pieces. So it's just natural, and white simply has no active counterplay, only some tricks like here. So after bishop d3, if I take on a3, then bishop f5 check leaves me without this rook, because, well, if my king goes away, then rook a3 and c2 square is protected by the bishop, so there is no knight c2 fork. And if knight takes on f5, well, there is no longer the knight on d4 being able to get to c2. Moreover, there is a like intermediate capture on f5, but I don't know what is better, to take on f5 and give black this connected pass pawns, or just to take on a3 immediately. Both are not very good for black. But I just started with the f3. Now I have this threat of taking on a3, and I have a very simple plan based on this king e5, king f4, and then king somewhere with an absolutely winning position. So look at this. Perfect coordination and no chances. Absolutely. To save it. So let's keep playing. Who's next? Who's next? Let's play medley. 5 minutes. And white pieces again. So e4, c5. All right, so b4 I have already played, d4 as well. What can I do additionally to this? Well, let's try d4, because my opponent in the previous game didn't actually accept the gambit, so maybe this one will be accepted. No, again this d3. All right, let's play c4. So it's still possible to protect the pawn if you want. No, he doesn't. So there is no chance for me to play a real gambit, unfortunately. But let's see, what can I do? So let's put the knight on d5, just right now. Very straightforward plan. So black played d5, we can d5. Now I put the knight on d5. And if knight takes d5, I can consider cd5 or ed5. I will probably just take with the e-pawn, activating my bishop. And we'll try to attack on the king side after that. Okay, but first, I guess I have to solve the problem of this knight on d4. This very active guy. So knight to e2 should be considered, knight to f3 as well. There are some ideas connected with queen h5, but I don't think I attack anything except for e5, and e5 is easily protected by d6. There is also a threat of bishop b4 check I have to deal with, because if I play, for example, knight to f3, there is bishop b4 check, and if I play bishop d2, there is check on f3 first. I mean, knight d4 takes on f3, and if I take with the queen, there is bishop d2 leaving me without castling, which is not also the end of the day and the end of the world. But okay. I guess I should avoid it if I have a chance, right? So knight f3 is not that cool. Maybe knight e2 is more flexible, because if bishop b4, then I have knight c3 move. Yeah, let's play knight e2. Patzer Medley says she doesn't. Right, probably Patzer Medley in the live chat and Medley I'm playing against is just the same person, right? Most likely. There is a probability. So again, most likely this Patzer Medley in live chat knows better. He or she. Okay, I'll say she. If you suggest this. But that's why I played knight e2 actually, to have this knight c3 defense. The point is that if bishop takes c3 and b c3, it's not clear where this knight d4 goes. Okay. Now let's castle and see. Oh, g6. I don't think if black wants to play f5, this g6 is a good idea, because f5 was possible right now. It was protected by the rook and the knight from d4. And this g6 just weakens a lot. What can I play here? I can play a3, by the way. Just asking where the bishop goes. But the bishop will probably go just to e7. So don't really achieve anything there. So to start with bishop h6, also not that clear. Maybe I will do the following. So first I will attack e5 pawn. Because now, if black plays d6, I will have a3 move, and the bishop will no longer have this position on e7. So this means the bishop will go to c5 or a5, and I will have a follow-up in the form of b4. Isn't it smart? I guess it is. Oh, now I understand the idea behind g6, so probably my opponent wanted to occupy f5 with the knight. But this is not, well, necessarily a very good position for black. Because put this knight on c5, I will say, okay, I will take black in 100% of cases. But knight is on f5, not on c5. There's perfect blockading position. Which means that, well, I have some chances to come up with c4, c5, right? Very soon. Maybe even right now. Yeah, why not? Let's play this. Because my pawns are doubled, I don't like them. Let's get rid of one of them. And now I have pair of bishops. So I have to try to open up a position if it is possible. That's why moves like c5 should be considered. f6 protecting e5 and intending just to grab the pawn on c5. Okay. What about c6? It's a double-edged decision, of course. I know. Because now black can take, I take, and there is something like d5 possible. But then I will continue just undermining these pawns, trying to make a position open. So if d5, I just play c4. In which case, yeah, d4 gives me this square. And if takes on c4, bishop takes c4. Check, and well, my bishops are very aggressive. Alright. Now I have bishop e4, very straightforward move, supporting my pawn, creating sort of c7, intending to play bishop d5 or something, and I guess it is a good move. So I like my position now. But I still have to activate my bishops somehow quickly. Or maybe just to play f4. Don't know. Let's start with the a4, multi-purpose move, just preparing bishop a3, for instance. Or maybe rook a3, and then rook from a3 gets somewhere. Don't know. Bishop a6, a provocation. So I can take on f5 now. It's not necessarily a good idea, so let's play bishop d5 instead. This looks solid. So now my bishop not only attacks something somewhere, I mean this controls this diagonally to g8, but also protects the pawn on c6 and also protects the pawn on c4. And pawn on c4 supports the bishop. So kind of coordination, right? So Let's bring the rook to h3. I told you that a4 was a multi-purpose move. So now let's try to prove that it means anything. So at least there is a threat of bishop h6 now. Alright, ignores. She ignores the threat. Right. I'm not against winning some material. And now let's bring the queen there to h6. Very good square. Attacking the knight at the same time. Let's go there. Okay. Let's take this first. Now c7. Feels like I could have played this much better. I somehow misplayed all this. Yeah, just blundered the rook on h3, by the way. Amazingly stupid finish. Amazingly stupid finish. Oh, I have only 9 seconds. It is not enough, I guess, to achieve anything in this position. But maybe I will manage. I don't know. Oh, I won on time. Alright, I was lucky. Of course, it was absolutely unnecessary to blunder the rook on h3. And I think I had something better than just taking that exchange. So after rook h3, my position looked very, very promising in the sense of this attack there. But I somehow misplayed it completely. So what to do after knight c4? Let's focus on this situation. First of all, I can notice that the bishop on a6 is now protected. So probably I could have played like queen d3 move. That was probably the best move in this position, right? So the idea is that if, for some reason, the knight goes to b6, attacking my bishop, and if I take on a6, knight takes d5, I can come up with this, rook h7, king h7, queen h3 check, king goes to g7, and queen h6 checkmate. Very nice, isn't it? So queen d3 is a multi-purpose move, creating 2 threats. Rook h7 followed by this checkmate by force and also attacking the knight. But the problem is that after that, there is a possibility to play knight to e3, actually breaking the connection between my queen and h3 square. So rook h7 no longer works. My queen is under attack, and if I take on a6, knight takes d5, and black is okay, more or less fine. But this is a better version, I guess, if compared to what happened in our game. So now I just play this. Takes f8, and look, my queen is just amazing here, and I can bring my stupid rook h3, which did nothing actually during the game there, after I won the exchange, to b7. Yeah, this should be just winning, right? Yeah. Okay, so what to do instead of this? Maybe I can play easily something like queen g4, creating the same threat. I mean, yeah, queen g4 looks logical. Now there is a threat of rook h7, queen h4, queen h6. And if king goes to h8, I just take on g6. This looks very good. But black is still in the game. I mean, queen g7 is playable, and there is no immediate checkmate, so most likely it's okay. But it should be just very good for white in any case. So I can take on g7, king g7, bishop h6, king goes to h8. Something like c7, the inclusion of this move is questionable, but should be also just great, right? So rook goes somewhere. And now, I don't know, rook g3, creating sort of bishop g7 looks just amazingly cool. Yeah, should be also winning. So something connected with the bringing the queen closer to opponent's king was very natural, because well, I have pair of bishops already directed to the king's side. I have the rook there, so it's time to bring the queen, the main attacking piece, right? So very strange. All right, so let's have a look at the opening stage. So d3, c4, knight c6, e5. I don't think e5 is a good idea in general. So if you are now forced to weaken d5 square, it's better to avoid this. I would have played something like e6 here, much more flexible move in my opinion. And after bishop takes d3, you can play bishop b4, you can play this knight f6. So you have a choice now. I mean, you can play d6 later. You can still play e5 if you really want to do this. But later, when you will have a better setup, in my opinion, that was just slightly better than what you did. But okay, e5 is not a great mistake. I mean, it's probably not even a mistake. Bishop takes d3. That is just my personal view. I don't really like the idea of weakening squares without much need. Knight f6, knight to d5. Again, I'm not sure that knight f6 is a good way of developing the knight here. I would have preferred something like bishop c5 instead. Trying to control d4 additionally, exerting pressure on f2 already. And maybe this knight will go to e7 instead, just to avoid this ideas of bishop g5, exchanging the knight, bringing the knight to d5 and so forth. So an interesting setup here is just to try something like d6, knight to e7, castles, and then at some point to undermine all this with the f7, f5. That is probably what I would have played here. Okay, knight f6, knight e5, knight takes d5, e takes d5, knight goes to d4. It can't be bad for black, of course. But after knight e2, well, even bishop b4 is okay, but it feels like a waste of time. I would have played something like a5 here. So now black's main idea, I mean, after exchanging on e2 maybe, or after bishop b4 check, knight c3, so somewhere here. So, or maybe just to start with d6. I guess d6 is very flexible. But in this case, I can play a3. Yeah, so the same like in the game. All right, how to solve this problem? So what I want to achieve here for black is just to put the bishop on c5 at the right moment. Maybe it's not that easy. Maybe it's not that easy. So let's see, knight here, knight c3, castles, castles. Yeah, maybe you played good. So maybe here, instead of playing g6, they should have played f5 immediately. Just grabbing the space. And now you have a threat of e4 at some point. Your ideas may include f4, f3. You simply control a lot here, right? And yeah, after playing d6 at some point, you'll be fine. After a3, you can do this. Bishop e7, and if I play b4, you play d6. So it's kind of Najdorf setup. Very typical pawn structure for Najdorf, but slightly better for white because in this position, I actually don't have to prepare b4. I already have b4 played here. So something like that. But that was completely playable in my opinion. All right. So let's play another game. Who's here? Who's here? So computer 1. Oh, that's dangerous to play against the computer, but let's try. Let's try to play against computer. Maroczy proper is with g6. No, g6 is hedgehog, just so you know. I don't understand what this comment adds to the general knowledge of chess for all of us, but okay. e4, c5. I call Maroczy everything that contains e4 and c4 pawns without pawns c5 and d4 or d2. Without c and d pawns and, well, if I have e4 and c4 after that. So it's kind of, I don't know. It's not really important how do you call the openings. It's not even important to call the openings correctly. So for me, I first saw this e4 and c4 setup when I was kind of 5 or 6 years old. It was called like Marozzi. And well, if it is against g6, if it makes you happy, all right. But I just don't care. Okay. So I think if there is a choice between knowing how the opening is called and the way how to play this, I will choose the second, 100%. All right. So e4 c5. So d4 b4 was already played. Other gambits, other possibilities to come up with a gambit. No, let's play f4. d5. e5. It's not a gambit so far, but well, let's do the thing. Like c4, d4. You know how to come up with the gambit play here. Let's start with the knight f3. Bishop to g4. Wow, being attacked for just sharing some knowledge. You don't share the knowledge, you just try to actually, yeah. So I will just, yeah, come up with, just so you know, what this phrase, just so you know, it's already not sharing the knowledge, it's just trying to actually kick me. All right, my friend. And yeah, I never stay silent when somebody tries to actually attack me with some bullshit, okay? So bishop g4, bishop to b5. Just so you know, I don't care how the openings are named and so forth. Just absolutely no relevance to me. Bishop b5, e6. So, it feels like no gambit in this game, but, well, let's try at least. Bishop takes here, queen takes here. And yeah, in general, if you know that e4 and c4 against the vast majority of, I don't know, Sicilian setups and so forth is kind of very typical thing to call it. So many top grandmasters call it a Marozzi, right? Doesn't really matter against g6 or against e6, d6 and so forth. I'm sorry, man. I just have an experience of like, yeah, talking to those guys. Maybe you are also a top grandmaster, but I bet you are not, because if you are, you probably have, yeah, another ideas how to actually spend your time not watching this stream. Okay, queen f3, h5, preventing g4 and play me, probably intending to play h5, h4 or something. I have no idea. So now I have at least a pair of bishops, but I don't think I will have a good option of saving the bishop b5 on the board because it doesn't really do anything useful. Most likely it's better for me to just take on c6 right now, at least damaging the pawn structure, and come up with something aggressive like f5. And there may be a gambit. Still there is a room for a gambit play. I'm not a top grandmaster, of course. I'm just an international master, that's true. But at least I have a possibility to talk to those guys because we are kind of play in similar tournaments and so forth. So I talk to different chess coaches and so forth. So I know how the things are called. And I know that in principle, it doesn't really matter how you call the thing, all right? But anyway, I don't want to spend the time on like talking to you because it doesn't add to the value of this stream, right? So e takes f5. Now I'll just castle. So that is kind of gambit. I finally sacrificed a pawn to get some tempi, but I'm not sure I will have a sufficient compensation for it. Because, well, I no longer have a lot of resources on the board, so 2 minor pieces are exchanged. And position remains quite close, right? So g6. And only 30 seconds on the clock. I spent a lot of time on talking to this man or woman, I don't know. So let's try to develop the pieces quickly, at least. Yeah, this is bad, of course. White. At least taking the situation on the clock into account. It's really bad. I still have some chances, so let's try. Yeah, so I want to open up a position with a d4 to bring my rook to the game, but yeah, it's easily avoidable. But now my knight is here, which gives me some chances still to activate my pieces. Okay, all the pieces are in the attack. What is this? This looks like a chance, but there is no time. Yeah, there is no time. But at least I came up with something interesting, right? So all of a sudden I got some attacking chances, but because my opponent, of course, helped me a lot. So there was, well, very strange opening. I was not completely focused on the game because of these stupid conversations. But okay, after e6, h3. First of all, I'm not sure that e6 is the best move here. So again, this guide, Mr. Fart Brains, says that I think he's going to cry. I think I'm going just to ban you, to block you from this conversation. Sorry, man, I'm just fed up. All right, bye-bye. So bishop b5, yeah, in general, this f4 is, of course, complete bullshit. So d5 is absolutely correct reaction. And after e5 is, it is clear that, well, white has some problems with light squares, right? So f5, g4. And that was a absolutely correct idea to play knight c6 followed by bishop g4. So I like this approach. The only thing is possibly how to improve this possibly. Maybe to start with h5 or something, or maybe even d4. Don't know. Okay, bishop g4 looks okay. Bishop b5. Only here, I think it makes sense to spend the move on protecting the knight c6 to avoid this damage of the pawn structure. So to play something like queen d7 or maybe rook to c8, because these moves are, in any case, quite useful. And then black can do the same, like e6, knight to e7, then to f5, and so forth. So the idea. So yeah, I'm still thinking about this conversation. That's how this trolling works, by the way. So come on, let's forget about it. Yeah, so I like the idea of rook c8, just protecting the knight on c6. And if bishop c6, then just rook takes c6, something like this. But okay, e6 can't be bad. e6 is just okay. Takes here, queen f3 and h5. Yeah, maybe h5 is just too much. Maybe knight to e7 is slightly more solid, controlling f5 square and being ready to replace the knight on c6 with another knight if I take on c6. And most likely I will be just forced. I mean, if I play castles and you play a6, if my bishop goes somewhere here, well, you have this d4 at your disposal. So in general, it's not very clear why should I just keep this bishop on the board, so I have to take. And, well, you take with the knight, again, avoiding the damage of the pawn structure. But okay, h5 should be also playable. And here, after f5, e takes f5, I should have probably just captured on f5, because I don't think I have a sufficient compensation after this, right? So I just castle, g6, okay. I don't have g4 possibility. I don't have the minor piece to sacrifice on f5, so yeah, it's very hard here. So after d3, bishop g7, c4, knight to e7, black is just fine, I guess. Maybe there was a better way to complete the development. Let's say after d3, what to do. Well, the ideal position for the knight will be on e6, of course, but it's not really easy to bring the knight here, at least right now. So okay, bishop g7 is good. c4, knight to e7, everything looks just very solid. Okay, castles, rook here, rook b8, knight to c3, rook takes b2. All this was absolutely playable. I mean, except for rook b2. Maybe rook b2 is risky. But what to do instead? Maybe to start with d4, you know, to avoid bishop e7 and captures on d5. Here I could have probably captured on e7. That could have been better for me than taking on g7 and cd5. And this looks unclear, but even this I think is okay for black after bishop takes e5. All right, bishop g7, king g7, rook d1, d4, knight here, rook takes a2. So black was probably too greedy. That's why I got some chances after knight f4. So look, once I play e6, it's already not that bad for white. So I have concrete objects of attack. Yes, I just got rid of a lot of pawns. I just gave all my pawns to my opponent. But after e6, well, there is something much more important happening. So I managed to actually take the pawn on f7. Then g6 becomes weak, and once g6 becomes weak, the entire position of the king becomes really bad. Something like that. All right. Okay. So the question, c4 now instead of d3. I don't think that it makes a difference. I mean, if instead of d3 I play c4, let's have a look at that moment. Castles, g6, just c4. I don't really attack d5. Yeah, it's a move, but... well, in any case, without d3, I think it will be very hard for me to do anything, all right? So, yeah. Strange position, strange game. By the end, of course, I had good winning chances, but okay. Spent a lot of time on unnecessary conversations. All right, who's next? I guess I have the time for 2 more games at best. So let's play Ceramic Student first, and then somebody else. All right, e4. Let's see what is going on there. And takes. Okay. So this should be interesting. Now knight to f3. So what is usually played here is queen to e2 move, preparing rook to d1, with the idea of e5. And queen c7 is kind of the move that prevents me from playing knight e5 with a great efficiency, because there is no longer this d6 pawn which is pinned. It is still here, but it is no longer pinned, so e5 doesn't give me anything. But queen c7 gives me a chance to play knight to b5 followed by bishop f4, or maybe to start with bishop f4. This move should be considered. If I play bishop f4, there is e5, 100%. So what about just playing knight b5 here, attacking the queen, and so forth? Now bishop f4 is interesting. Just queen somewhere, just attacking d6 pawn. Or bishop f4 followed by bishop g5. Why not? This is interesting. Just attacking d6, a5, bishop g5. Now I want to just take on f6. It should give me some compensation if black recaptures with a pawn. All right. Let's take this one to start with. Because if bishop takes, I just take on d6 with check. And if pawn takes, well, the pawn structure is ugly. Maybe it's not a big achievement for me. And now I can try something simple like h3, g4, knight h4. And if black takes on f3, well, I'll be happy, right? Because light squares will be very weak. There is also something simple connected with just attacking d6. So to play a move like queen f3. Oh, there is bishop takes f7 followed by knight g5. But then after h5, queen g4, I'm just a piece down for really no compensation, I guess. All right. Yeah, let's start with this. Knight e5 instead of e5, yeah, most likely was interesting try. a6, well, this gives me this possibility. I'll be happy to exchange the pieces this way because I just regain the pawn. And I think I have strategically winning position because all light squares are just weak. And a lot of ugly pawns. What I need here to complete the mission is just to bring the knight to f5 at some point. And should be just winning. Should be just winning there. h5. Probably a good try, but still, it shouldn't be enough. So knight h4. I could have captured on h5, but I think, well, it's better just to follow the plan. After gh5, rook h5, it could have been not so easy for me to bring the knight to h4, but there were also some tactical possibilities like gh5, rook h5, knight goes to d4. That was also interesting. Okay, now I'll just take. And we'll just take on d4. So I anyway wanted to do this. I just like this position. Yeah, I'm an exchange down, but look at this great knight on f5. Queen to c8. So how to finish the attack? So queen g4 followed by queen g7 is, well, sort of stopped with rook g8, but then my queen can go to f4, creating a sort of queen h6, and probably this will force black to go back to h8. This sort of attack, but I'm not sure if I achieve anything there. But well, if my queen is already on f4, I can continue with the rook c1 move. Yeah, I'll try this definitely. So queen g4. Wanna just play queen g7 with a checkmate. Now queen to f4, creating this threat. And okay, probably it was a blunder because e8 square is controlled and there is a checkmate. So not your best game, crowning student, 100%. So we all know you can do a lot over the board, even if it is a blitz game. So it was just a bad luck. So to start with, I think the best order of moves for black is actually connected with... yeah, it's possible to play this, I believe. If you play Sicilian, you should know this. And you probably know, as far as I understood, it just confused the order of moves. So this e6, exactly what you played was playable. I mean, at some point just a6 and queen c7. But when I was younger and played Sicilian myself, I was doing like bishop g4, a bishop g4 thing. So I exchanged this bishop for this knight. And after this exchange, it is really, really hard for white to play e5 in the vast majority of cases, as far as I remember. That could be an interesting idea to tame this gambit. Maybe it is still not that simple, but I played something like this, simply. And then just e6. And the same, like a6, queen c7, and so forth. Or maybe even a6 here to start with, creating a sort of knight e5, just grabbing this bishop, after which white has no initiative at all, so there is no time for white to play this rook d1 now. White has to spend the time on the move with the queen somewhere, I don't know, g3 or e2, doesn't really matter. And now something like, I don't know, g6 or bishop and bishop g7, or e6 and bishop e7, something like this. Alright, if you play e6 after queen e2, definitely a6 should be played to be able to occupy c7, because after this there is already a threat of e5, which is a 9, and after queen c7, look, I have this knight b5 followed by bishop f4. So here was the knight e5 move suggested in chat, which was probably an interesting idea, but I guess I have something crazy here connected with capturing on d6 twice, maybe, and then bishop to e5 with a great initiative. One of the ideas. Another idea is just to play something like rook c1 to start with. Also extremely annoying position, because now I have some ideas connected with knight c7, so this is not very, very good for black. This is 100%. Okay. So Kramnik says, I usually play e6, knight e7, knight g6. Yeah, also an interesting idea. So there are a lot of different interesting ways to play this. But this one is definitely not good. Alright, so after bishop g4, just take here, ugly pawn structure. And now a6 was bad. I think that bishop h5 should be played in this position. In this case, black still has some chances. Okay, so I wanted to do something like this. Maybe to bring the knight to f5 after that, but it is still a game, it is still a play. I mean, I'm not sure if I have a direct way to win this. Maybe there is no win even. Maybe everything is still fine for black even after this. But a6 is definitely wrong. So after this, well, first of all, material balance is no longer good for black, so we have equal material, and black has a lot of strategic drawbacks, serious ones. So ugly pawn structure, bad bishop on e7, weakness of light squares in general, and so on. And the rest is just simple. So I played knight h4 with the idea of knight f5. And this sacrifice was really very natural, so it doesn't actually help black. I think it helps only me to come up with the simple attack. So queen here, queen g4, rook g8. Here was something like queen g8 followed by knight e7, knight c8 suggested. Yes, it was a very clear way to win the game, 100%. But I wanted to give a checkmate, which was probably wrong, because here black still has a defense. Rook g5 was interesting to try. So queen h6 is prevented, and white still has to prove that he has a winning position, which is not very hard to do, honestly. So it's possible to play rook c1, and then to bring the rook to c7 if black gives me a chance. If not, there is a chance to play this, like h6, h7. So it should be winning still, but yeah, I agree completely that queen takes g8 was just the best move here. So rook g8 just takes knight e7, takes on c8 after that, because the king is under attack, and I have simply a minor piece, an extra minor piece. So winning position. All right, so let's play the last game. Yeah, so here is the Mr. Fought Brains message. All right, don't care. So I will read it after that, because I had enough. Last chance. Well, last chance, interesting. High rated guy, 2562. So I have to be really careful here. So knight f3 is probably not the move which you make when you want to come up with a gambit, but there are still some gambits possible even here. So let's try it. Let's try it. So, no response from my opponent. Alright, let's play. Oh, there is only one challenge from Simba left. That is bad. But okay, let's try this 3-minute game. Will be extremely hard for me. If Simba is still online, I mean. Knight f3 d5 e4 is possible gambit. I think that knight f3 d5 c4 is the best possible gambit there. So just to give up a pawn for some time. But it's easily regained, so I don't think it is a real gambit. It's just like a queen's gambit, right? So you can sacrifice a pawn on c4, but it is easily regained. Krause gambit. What is Krause gambit, Fuchsia? As we already understood, I'm not very good in names of openings, right? Okay, last chance. So just a second. Last game. Last game. What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, just wait a second. Last chance. All right. Let's change our mind and play this. It's an absolutely playable option, of course, but it doesn't necessarily give white anything. In fact, black has good chances to fight for a win after this. In general, this gambit is not very good, because well, c5 is not the move that creates a weakness, and after that it's very hard to actually prove that you have a target or something like that. But okay, let's play it. d5, all right, e5. All right, let's take on a3. So the ideal setup for white here is, of course, to achieve something like French defense. But my opponent probably wants to develop his light squared bishop prior to playing e6, which is kind of very good strategy. All right, h5. So this definitely tells us the story. So he doesn't want to play e6 until his bishop is somewhere on f5 or maybe g4 even. All right, so let's start with the c3. So supporting d4 and preventing something like queen a5 check. Also preparing knight to d2. Just a development of the piece. Okay, after bishop f5, what do we have here? I can try bishop d3 here, exchanging this bishop. And then after exchange, there will be some problems for black with e6 move. But I guess I have to start with knight f3. just to be able to castle at any point. And e6, okay, it just gives me some compensation, I guess. So there is d6 square, potentially interesting for my knight, but it will be very hard for me to occupy it. And the king on f8, which is probably not that cool. It's still okay, there is nothing wrong with that, but it is at least something, right? Something for me to justify my gambit. So the loss of material, I mean. Bishop e2 castles and so forth. To start with. Now black will have to spend the time on improving position of his king, which is not that simple. So I mean, if black plays g7 somewhere to g5 or g6, it weakens f6, which gives me some new targets. If the king goes to h7, well, g5 square is also weak, so I'll bring the knight there with some attack. If king remains on f8, there is a problem with the coordination of the pieces. So it feels like I have some compensation for missing material, so we will see how this works. Okay, I think it's better for me to stop this pawn. And this prevents black from quick improvement of the rook's position. Because h4 will be hanging, all right? So now I want to bring my knight to b5 and then to d6, most likely. But e5 is hanging now. Let's take. And c4. Just attacking the center. Should have played queen d2 most likely, because this knight f4 looks annoying. But okay. Let's get rid of it. So black's pieces are not coordinated to actually cause serious damage to my king side, I guess. At least at the moment. So I shouldn't be very afraid of these sacrifices like g2 or h3. And after this exchange, okay, I'm fine. But black is also not that bad, of course. So what to do next? I think to bring the rook to the e file makes sense. Now, something like this. Also improvement of the knight's position. I think this gives me a good chance to play the c5, followed by knight e6, but maybe I just blundered on h3. Which is not necessarily a big problem. But it can be, in fact. It's not very pleasant. Yeah, I should have prevented that. But what can I do now? Yeah, I was too focused on my ideas here, of course. Was not that cool. Alright, let's go. Let's go away. If I take on e6, there is bishop h3 back. Another thing I blundered here. Yeah, a lot of blunders in this game. A lot of blunders. So what is my last chance here? I have no idea. This is just very bad. Bishop f3 is this right? Yeah, it's just lost. I think it's just simply lost position. Simply lost position for white, unfortunately. I was very close to justify all the things, but yeah, blundered on h3. And maybe earlier it was better for me to play queen d2, just preventing this knight to f4. Most likely that was a key. So now it's just over. Yeah, there is no way. There is no way to survive it. Okay, I will resign. Very nice counter-attack. Thanks for this. All right, let's see what could I have done better. So that was okay. I mean, bishop e2 was probably not the best move. Maybe h4 was better. But okay, bishop e2 was also quite playable. After h4, even h3 was all right. Here could have captured on f6 immediately, but okay, let's say with this knight a3 takes. Yeah, here 100% it was much better for me to start with queen d2, controlling this f4 square in advance, because if black wants to bring the knight to f4, it's necessary to come up with the e5, which is not clear, which is not necessarily a good idea for black, because still there is a problem with the coordination. I also control h6 square here, so once the rook goes to g8, there's queen h6 trick. And well, I'm still okay with continue with this c4 and so on. So if queen goes to b8, then after, you know, rook to e1, and for example knight f4, I can play bishop f1, and this position is no longer that bad if compared to what I had during the game. So c4, knight f4, queen d2, king f7 was also playable for white, but after rook e1 and queen d7, I should have been careful about black's counterplay. So rook g8, definitely this c5 was a serious mistake. So I should have played something like, let's say, king f1, which is probably very solid, or maybe just king to h1, you know. Let's say king to h1. I guess this is still okay for white. So I have a threat of playing this c5 followed by knight d6. Another idea is just to bring the knight to c3 and to continue with the cd5 opening the position. a7 is also hanging, but I don't think it is a big problem for black. So in general, I have to come up with some active play here in the center to try to open it up somehow and to get my chances against this king if position becomes open. Most likely black has a sufficient counterplay here. It should be like that because, well, black's pieces are also kind of good coordinated already. Don't know, but that was at least playable, right? So I played very badly. I just played c5, completely forgetting about this bishop h3 possibility. And there was a serious blunder. After this, I think I'm already lost. So knight d6 king here. It's not possible to protect g2 normally, and black correctly captured with the bishop. After which, I thought I would have queen e6, but again, it was another blunder because of this bishop h3 check and takes the bishop next move. All right. Yeah. So I should have prevented this counterplay and then to come up with the ideas of c5 or knight c3 or whatever. All right, that was one of possible ways to play against this b4. Well, if you want to have an interesting system against it, I think you have to pay attention to that. But it's not the best in my opinion because h5 creates a weakness. I could have tried just playing h4 and then bishop to e2, and if bishop goes to g4, I can try f3, so also tempo gaining operation. In this case, I can try again this c3 and so forth, but at least black comes up with some sort of blockading stuff on the king side, and well, white doesn't have a clear way to achieve anything, so makes sense. I mean, interesting stuff. All right. I'm very happy that you were here with me this evening. Thanks a lot for supporting me. Thanks a lot for attending my shows. I hope you learned something new. Even, well, this Monday edition that usually provides you with a lot of strangely looking games can actually give you some interesting information to think about, or maybe some interesting opening ideas to surprise your opponents or to be ready for this sort of surprises. All right, wish you a good evening or whatever you have there on your end, and see you very soon. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to be notified. Another idea is to follow me on Twitter, so you will not miss any of my new videos or live streams just like this one. All the best. Take care. Bye bye.